Lord Jesus, last night Gabby Mosley had me looking for my blood pressure pill medicine. Oh my God, not her being held captive at M&A. What's up, y'all? Welcome to the Lawrence Report. Tonight's broadcast discussing episode 17 of NBC Found, Missing While Manipulated. And shout out to the GOAT himself, Mark Paul Gossier. He directed last night's episode of NBC Found. And listen, this one right here was an absolute banger. He killed this episode right here. Like, absolutely murked it. Let's talk about NBC Found. Make sure you guys hit the subscribe button. And y'all, you gotta forgive me because currently I am dealing with a cold and a sore throat, so my voice sounds a little bit deeper than it usually is. Or if you hear me sniffle, it's because I'm dealing with this cold and this sore throat. But I had to get this video out to the people. Let's talk about NBC Found. So last night was a banger. They started to show off, everybody's trying to figure out the case, when it came to that body showing up in Gabby's basement, right? But actually, let me just go back for a minute. Let me just go back. We all saw the episode last night, right? That ending though, that ending was going to set up a lot of stuff. Heather, listen, that's different. That's crazy. That is insane. But I think a lot of us kind of guessed that. A lot of us kind of figured that out. But anyway, talking about the basement situation, of course, there was cigarette butts around there, and they thought it was the cigarette butts that Jamie had. Of course, we know later on in the show, Jamie and Don have the heart-to-heart conversation, and he says that it wasn't me. I had nothing to do with that body being in the basement, but I wanted to go back and apologize to Gabby. So that's why he was the on the property of Gabby's house, right? And we also saw this right here. We saw Trent and Heather, right? She Trent basically tells Heather that you don't have to do this right here, and she's talking about baby, I miss you, yada yada yada, paraphrasing, all right? Trent trying to let her know you ain't got to do this. We can be together, but if you choosing to be on that side, it ain't gonna work out. Margaret ends up going to visit Sir, right? And she wants to know, why did you have the conversation with Jamie? He didn't really go into details, right? But he kind of held her captive. He was like, well, I could give you details, but you got to figure out a way to get Gabby to come see me, right? And you know how Sir is. He's very manipulated, right? And then we end up meeting the situation with Gabby, right? Gabby is getting ready to be held at gunpoint. We end up meeting a guy from her past by a man by the name of Montgomery Clark, right? I think his last name was Clark, but first name was Montgomery. Anyway, he comes into M&A. Now M&A, now M&A, I never understood this right here. You ain't got no receptionist. You ain't got no security cameras. I mean, no security guards around the premises. Like, what's going on? Anybody can just walk in there free willy like that? But he comes in there. He's like, listen, Gabby Mosley, you're the person who put me behind bars all those years. They start recognizing and reminiscing and remember each other. And he has a gun. He puts Gabby and Margaret at gunpoint, right? So now everybody's frantic, everybody nervous. I'm nervous watching it. Of course, I knew he wasn't gonna kill Gabby, but still, it was a nervous situation. This man has some deep troubling thoughts, right? Apparently, he's been known to abuse his child. He claims that he didn't do it, right? And now he wants revenge set out on Gabby. Of course, the team learns about it. They try to help Gabby out, try to be her eyes and ears, right? But Montgomery Clark isn't having it. He ends up shooting one of the cameras, right? That's when Zeke freaks out. He's like, listen, I lost my eyes. Like, I can't see, but Zeke is still able to hear, right? So now the team is frantically, and Gabby, they're trying to calm Montgomery down the best way that they can, right? And one of the ideas they come up with to help settle everything down, Margaret tells Gabby that you need to take down your walls. You need to let down your cool, right? Then that's when Montgomery and Gabby start talking. And he does eventually end up calming down. He's crying. Gabby tells him, like, you won't be here for your son at the end of the day. Don't do something crazy like this, right? But speaking of Margaret, Margaret did end up having another flashback, of course. Well, it was a conversation between her and her husband. And the conversation was this, the husband was like, well, I have to be here for my daughters. I can't keep putting them in harm's way. Like, if you're not gonna be there for them, I will. So it's kind of like a divide. I kind of feel like the husband was getting ready to ensue to Margaret that we are potentially about to head to divorce because of everything that's been going on with Jamie, Margaret, and that whole situation. Again, that husband is a bad guy. I do not like that husband at all. We also know this right here. While the team is frantically trying to help Gabby, right? Dawn is currently outside of M&A, and we have Trent and Margaret's son Jamie. They're trying to walk into M&A, but they don't know what's about to go down, right? Don't know what's happening inside M&A. And Don warns him, "You can't go over there." He didn't really give him an excuse, but then he told Jamie to go to the side. Jamie came back, said, "Listen, y'all hiding something, right?" And then that's when they realize Jamie is kind of like asking and about his mother, kind of screaming for his mother. And Margaret hears that. And Margaret ain't nothing stopping Margaret from getting to her son, right? She ends up walking towards the door, right? And Montgomery pulls that gun out. And that's when Gabby gets in front of him, like, "Yo, don't do this." She tells him, "Listen, your beef is with me, not with her. Let her escape." And she does escape, and she's reunited with Jamie. And I'm starting to wonder, okay, I'm like, now, okay, maybe this is real Jamie. But I keep going back and forth with that. Is this real Jamie? Is it a copycat? Is it a clone? We truly don't know yet. But they're hugging each other, they're embracing each other. And of course, now Trent is trying to. Trent, Trent. So as Gabby calms the situation down, right? Montgomery lets down his cool and all that, but then out of nowhere, here comes Trent, the boy wonder himself, heavy boots, right? He comes to tackle Montgomery. I'm like, oh no, I don't know if this is good or bad, right? He claims that Montgomery, you're going to be under arrest, yada yada yada. Now that Gabby has a heart of forgiving the person, right? Because she don't want to see this man go to jail, but we know later on, fortunately, he does end up going to jail. And from there, it was just a sad situation, completely sad situation about the whole Montgomery Clark story with him, his son, and I believe it was his wife Dahlia, I believe. It's a whole sad situation. Of course, they're reunited and all that stuff right there. One of the most important, intriguing pieces that we did see coming close to the end was when Sir gets a visit from Trent, right? They're talking to each other. Cool, right? He tells her, well, Trent lets Sir know about the situation with Gabby. He talking about if she dies or if she get hurt, so will you, right? I'm like, okay, cool. Then we got Margaret. She's going back to visit Sir. She's like, listen, you thought I was going to trade my best friend in for you? Not quite. Because he ends up killing Margaret softly with a quote from her past that she used to say to Jamie about something about clouds releasing or something like that. Something about some quote about clouds, right? And that puts her into a tailspin, right? Not to mention Margaret put two and two together about Heather, right? She realizes that Heather and Sir are basically brother and sister. So that was a crazy bombshell right there. Now Gabby's sitting there trying to figure out we gotta take Heather down. We gotta take Sir down. But Sir's already behind bars. But we gotta take Heather down because now we know the truth about um, Heather, right? So now they believe that she has been there all along. She has been one of Sir's accomplice this entire time. That's basically how this episode ends. Of course, it wouldn't be NBC Found without them leaving us on a cliffhanger um, for a bombshell for the following week. You know how they get down. So that's how basically how the show ended. I thought this was a fire episode. Um, and it sets a lot of stuff up for the future as well. So that's my thoughts on my NBC Found. Great episode. Love the way they flipped it this time with the case when it came to Montgomery. Those are my thoughts on this episode, y'all. As always, thank you for tuning in to the Lawrence Report.